Good evening and welcome to a Celtic State of Mind. My name is John Dykes and I'm delighted this evening to be chatting to Saul Davies from the band James. We all own a James record and Saul will be talking to us this evening about his career within that band, also his love of football and an initiative which he is involved in that we need to be aware of. Look along the bottom of your screen, we've got a ticker tape and that will tell you to visit Everybody Belongs Here. That's the website of this anti-racist initiative that Saul has set up, and we want to raise awareness of that tonight. We'll be talking about that initiative, his career in music and his love of football in just a few moments. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be here for about an hour live on Facebook. This has been made possible by our hosts, Celts Are Here. Thank you very much, guys, for allowing us to use your excellent platform on Facebook. And the whole show will be produced by The Longest 40, who are a fantastic promotions company and who have provided loads of free events such as this during the lockdown throughout the pandemic. I'm a massive James fan. I can't wait to hear from Saul. So please welcome to A Celtic State of Mind, Saul Davies.
Hello, Paul.
How are you doing?
Yeah, really well. Thanks for having me on. Obviously, amazing, actually.
It's an absolute pleasure. First thing I'm going to say is I love that T-shirt. Talk to me about that T-shirt, Saul.
This very nice T-shirt that I'm modelling here. Look at this. There you go. Yeah. No, it is a pretty cool T-shirt. This is a design that was made by Kerry Roper, who is one of the head designers at Strachan, who you mentioned this. Everybody Belongs Here, which is, I mean, this is an amazing opportunity for me to talk to people about what we're doing. So I really want to thank you for giving me the platform to talk about that and other things and have a chat with you generally about all sorts of stuff, obviously. But yeah, Kerry, he did this design. He's a member of this team that has been put together. Strachan, you will know that name. They're a massive company. Whatever, do some amazing work, and they're giving their time for free, so they're very much the engine behind what we're doing, along actually with Porto Football Club, who've also given us a huge amount of support. And yeah, we had these T-shirts out, and we've been giving them out to people, and yeah, it's looking great. It's part of the message that we have. I think it's bold and it's there's no mistaking it as I look at it. Do you know what I mean? So
it's looking good. So what I would say is I was on the website today and those T-shirts are available for purchase on everybodybelongshere.com. We're talking about the initiative. Tell us more about it. You mentioned Porto was involved. For anyone who hasn't seen what you did with Porto, talk us through that as well. So.
Yeah, so, well, I'll give you a wee brief history then of this, really. So, first of all, I'd like to say, this is very much an initiative that is, it's not a James initiative, this is not about, my band as such, our band, but it's definitely, it really came about from 3 lines of text from a song. Actually, which is on a record that we made quite recently, and the song is called Many Faces, and we toured quite extensively, around the world, whatever, and every night we were playing this song, and what we were finding was, get to the end section of this tune, it was a big kind of typical James kind of sing along, and words written by Tim, our singer, and it's very simple. It's just there's only one human race, many faces, everybody belongs here. And Tim, I know, had kind of written those words, I think partly imagining himself actually standing directly in front of Donald Trump, and it was really a message to Trump, actually, from Tim. Actually, we got to play on the White House lawn once, many years ago. Not when Trump was in power, obviously, many years ago, but it was an amazing experience. We did a benefit gig for Greenpeace, and on the White House lawn. So momentarily, the White House grounds were kind of full of hippies and nutters and musicians kind of running around, like whatever is magic. He would have allowed us in. I don't think he would have thought of us maybe as a bit too much of a threat. But so yeah, that was the closest we ever got to the Oval Office. But anyway, that's a digression. Yeah, Tim, you know, had this idea in his head. This record that song came from is a very politically charged record. Tim lives in America, and he saw the wind blowing in the direction probably that it's blown in. You know, over the last few years, and the opening song of that album has the line "White fascists in the White House." He sings about Trump's crackhead tiny fingers and all the rest of it. So it was a brutal attack on that regime. You can think of it as a regime in a way. Anyway, we played this song a lot on a tour that we did last summer, throughout the summer in America. And my partner Vanda was on that tour for quite a bit of it, and she witnessed the kind of engagement with the crowd, and like, you know, night after night, the crowd would kind of run with the tune and take it up themselves, and we kind of be standing there slightly redundant on the stage, which is a feeling that I've got used to quite a lot in my career. Do you know what I mean? Then, anybody want a cup of tea? I'll just go and that's what happens when you write sing-along anthems. You know, you might as well just not bother. You know what I mean? So anyway, and we got back to Europe, and we did a gig in Madrid, and then we went to play in Porto. It turns out actually that's been now the last show that we did. In fact, last September, and we recorded the show, and it was a magic night. I know Porto very well because I lived there. My son was born there, and I have a Portuguese family and all the rest of it. So and I have a great respect and love of the city and its people actually. And people said to me, people in Scotland said to me, what's Porto like? And I said, it's like Glasgow in the sun.
Lovely.
There's lots of similarities. It's, you know, it's industrial to some extent. It has a massive history to do with the sea and the river and the industry that comes with all that stuff. Obviously in Porto it's slightly different. It's the port wine coming down from the river rather than shipbuilding, say, or whatever in Glasgow. But there's a history to do with the river and the rest of the country, the inland. You know, obviously Glasgow has that, being on the west coast, just like Porto is. It's got, you know, the river splits the city in half like it does. It's the centre of a lot of music that comes out of Portugal. A lot of great music comes out of the north. It's got a great football team, like Glasgow has, it's essentially working class, but it's also very artistic, and it's a challenging place. It's had its dark moments, like Glasgow has as well. But by the people that like it, by the people that get it, it's a city that's easy to love and enjoy. So it really is like Glasgow in the sun. You know, it probably, if it rains 350 days of the year in Glasgow, it rains like 5 days of the year in Porto. And if the average temperature in Glasgow is like 6 degrees, then it's like 26 in Porto. So, you know, there are some, look at the football, look at the style of football that gets played in the two cities as well. Funny. But no, so I'd invited some of the Porto hierarchy as such to come to our gig. I knew they were James fans, and we did this big binding show in a park. It was huge. You know, whole place was rammed. It was amazing, and we had a mad stage invasion, and they all got on the stage. There must have been literally about 100 people on the stage singing this song. It was mad, beautiful. I really thought the stage was going to collapse actually, but anyway, and we got through the night, and well, we went to the club. Vanda said, well, you know, you go to the club, talk to them about getting involved, you know. So I went, and they were hugely receptive, having been at the show themselves and having witnessed this kind of takeover of the state and the emotion. You know, music is a vehicle, I always think, for emotion, you know, and football is a vehicle in a way for emotion, and football is an expression of emotion, and so is music, in my opinion. So, you know, the real highs in your life, they're often, for football fans, those real highs are often associated with football. It's why some people who don't like football wonder why it is that people get so het up about it. Well, it's in you, you know, and music is the same, you know, and like like a great football team, you don't know what's going to happen, and that's the thing about bands. Great bands, I think, are bands where you can go night after night and see the band play, and you don't know what you're going to get. You know, you don't know whether it's going to collapse or whether it's going to be one of those magic nights. You know, we're certainly a band. We're lucky we've been going for so long. You know, I mean, we were invented before electricity. You know that, don't you? So we've been going so long that you know, we have a catalogue, so we can, you know, we literally. I mean, Jimmy started this band in 1981. Okay, so you know that's when the football was in black and white. You know what I mean? So it's like we have this unbelievable catalogue of songs that we can pull into a set. And one of the reasons why I think we're still playing to big numbers of people, making new records and all the rest of it, is because we don't rehearse and we change our set all the time. So people come to our gigs and they don't know what they're going to get. And it's magic. You know, it can be magic. You know, it can also fail as well.
It'll be great, Saul, for these people that come to gig after gig after gig. If you're mixing it up.
Yeah, well, Jimmy often says, actually, we go to every gig. We have to be there, apart from me making tea sometimes. We have to be, the band members need to be at every single gig. So if we don't make it vital for ourselves, which means mixing it up, then we'll get stale, we'll become a greatest hit. We've had some big tunes, we could do a greatest hit set and everybody would love it. And very occasionally, you know, we err towards that. Do you know what I mean? If we do a big Christmas show or whatever, well, we know why we're there, that's cool, it's a party. But the rest of the time, the amazing thing is that the majority of our fans want us to challenge them, you know, and they want us to make new records and they want to hear those records played. I think for a lot of bands, that's a really unusual situation to be in, and we're very fortunate and we're really unbelievably grateful. We don't have a lot of opportunity, certainly at the moment we don't have very much opportunity to say thank you to people for that support. But I think at the moment it means even more than ever, and I'm not paying lip service to that like some cloying kind of aging rock star, you know, is kind of pretending to say thanks to his fans. I'm not doing that. It's like I genuinely get it. Do you know what I mean? And I think we're in a time when people being transparent and honest with each other and being able to say things that support each other is amazing. You know, it's great. It's you know, there's a lot of very dark things going on in the world, but on the other hand, there's also some really good things happening where people are being honest with each other and saying things that perhaps they wouldn't have said otherwise. And I think that's quite great. That's great. You know, whatever. Anyway, back to Porto. We went to them and they said, yeah, what can we do to help? And we'll do something with you. So we planned with them a bit, and it ended up 17th of January, they gave us their stadium. It was a home match against Braga. A game, it was a really hardcore game. It was a difficult game. Braga are a great team. They play great football. And obviously it's a local rivalry. You know, it would be like Celtic Kilmarnock, say, in distance or whatever. You know what I mean? So Celtic, Hibs, Hearts, maybe something, you know, like that. A lot of rivalry, a lot of history between the clubs. And so actually Porto lost. They missed 2 penalties as well during the game. It was mad. But just before the game, we got on the pitch. Me, Jimmy came, people, and a lot of people, local artists and musicians from Portugal, who wanted to support us. People who had affiliation with the club, people who did not also. And they let us all, this ragtag bunch on the pitch, in the middle of the pitch, and we got the whole crowd singing along to the tune. Just that refrain ran around, there's only one human race, many faces, everybody belongs here. And we sang it in sound, we filmed it, and after that we made a little video and we started sharing that a little bit. And it went a bit mad in Portugal, people really responded to it. It was quite amazing. We got messages from other teams saying that they really enjoyed the activity that we'd done. And so we started working on, then we took it to Strachan in London and said, look, we need some help. How can you help us? And they loved it and they wanted to get involved. So they've given us this massive team of people, quite amazing people really. And a very diverse bunch of people that come from different backgrounds, different social means, whatever. People who, like Kerry, who well publicized, was employed pretty much with some dark days in his life. He was essentially sectioned when he was employed by them, with some issues surrounding mental health. All sorts of people in that building who want to try and make a difference. And I have absolutely no problem in saying that they're amazing people. And really, again, thank you to them, because it's not every day that you see a corporate entity, as they are, deciding for no particular reason other than the fact that they want to and think there's value in it, just deciding to help, a bunch of half-wits like me try to get something off the ground, So it's pretty amazing. And fair dues to them, really. So we've made some beautiful things, and we've started talking to some fantastic people, some football people and some music people. People starting now to send us little messages in, and people like Gordon Strachan, Simon Donnelly, Carlos Carvajal, a Portuguese manager who managed at Swansea and in Sheffield Wednesday, Besiktas in Turkey, all sorts of people coming our way, and it's brilliant. Nuno Valente in Portugal as well. So we're just growing. We're just starting. We're focusing in now on what we want to say to people and how the best way to say that is. And I think ideally what we'd like to do. Our initiative is based around the idea. What we had seen last year in world football was the resurgence of some very nasty, racist abuse being aimed. Well, it seemed quite indiscriminate. We saw it in Spain, in Italy. The England national team got abused in Hungary. I thought that was particularly galling because, regardless of what people in Scotland might think of the England national team, and I know what they think of the England national team, as someone who lives in Scotland, I know exactly what people say about the England national team. But what everybody agrees is that regardless of what colour of shirt you're wearing, the colour of your skin should have absolutely no bearing on how you're treated on or off the pitch. And I thought that Southgate dealt with it unbelievably brilliantly by taking his players in the middle of the pitch and having a conversation with them in the middle of that game. And the bravery of those players to play on, really. There were young players in that team. They're guys who are 19 or 20 years old who would have quite rightly expected that that kind of abuse would be not something that they would now have to endure in their professional life. Now, it's one thing in your social life if you get into a situation out there in the world where something mad happens, but we're in our professional lives. I'm not saying that's right at all, but you get what I'm saying here. In our professional lives, there's no play. We must show respect, and that was sadly and totally lacking in that particular instance. Made worse, of course, by the president of the Hungarian Football Association saying, "I don't really know what the problem is. England are making it up," and I'm English. I was born in Liverpool, but I spent a lot of my life living in Scotland. And when it comes down to Scotland playing England at the football, I'm afraid to say that I suddenly become a Scot. And me and my family went to when Gordon Strachan was the manager of Scotland, he very graciously invited me to go with my family to the Scotland-England match at Hampden. And I couldn't believe that I was going to a Scotland-England match, right? I just thought I'd never experienced that, right? My dad had, because in the 70s when we lived in near Stirling, he went. I can't remember what year it is, but he went when England. I think it was maybe 76. England beat Scotland. It was Alan Ball scored the goal. It was 1-0, and my dad. Can you believe this? Went there with an England scarf on, right? And there was 100,000 more or less Scots and my dad. And they really was the days when you would go to a Scotland-England match at Hampden and there would be like 97,000 Scots and 3 English fans, like 3 who were just kind of like there by mistake. You know what I mean? Maybe they were trying to go, I don't know what to, like Blair Drummond Safari Park, but ended up in Hampden. Do you know what I mean? And my dad got and this is the mad thing. So a load of bricks came flying down from the stand above, right? But of course, this is not an exact science throwing a brick in a football match. So I think my dad was unscathed, but obviously a few of the nutters around him got battered, by their own fans. You know, and it's like, and I remember him coming back and going, "That was mental," That's what we call the good old days in the game. Eh?
The good old days, yeah. The thing is, so we had a very interesting discussion just last week about the good old days, about the 1970s, and how your parents took you to Celtic Park. What was your memories back then? The jungle at Celtic Park in the 1970s.
Well, I mean, there's nothing like that in the, there's nothing like that in, well, maybe now still in Argentina, maybe Boca Juniors against what they called, what would it be? Their big rivals, whatever they are, right? And that, you know what I mean? Like that would be maybe because there's still cages, because there's still terracing, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, for people, I'm about to be 55, so, I fall into the category of people that could have, could go to football in the 70s. Young lads went to football in the 70s, whatever. But there's no experience that you can have like that now in Europe. It doesn't exist. You can't. That's gone. The aggression actually even as well. I mean, that's the thing. The raw, vital power of those events. Maybe going to an amazing, maybe I don't know, going to see a Biffy Clyro gig, in the Barras, say, you're one of the 2,000 that have got a ticket. Maybe that would be, do you know what I mean? Like being at the front, that might be akin to it. But I mean, it's, that's really amazing, those events, and that's a part of the history of Scotland, the history of football, that's kind of gone, so you're left with a fading memory. You're left with some YouTube clips and some old players and people who were old enough to go on occasion. We didn't go a lot, but we went on occasion. I mean, it's frightening, you know what I mean? It's supercharged. Like I think it was one of those matches my whole family, the whole family went, and my parents were kind of, music loving weirdo, essentially weirdo hippie types, really, like, there was a period of time when I used to have to milk our goats before going to school, and at school I was called the gay goat, right? Because I was English, so I was gay, obviously, and I was milking goats, and goats are very nutty, the smell of them, so they, I was called the gay goat. It's like, whatever. It's pretty funny, really. But
they could be so cruel, so.
Well, maybe I didn't. The thing is, you brush that off because that's not that. That wasn't that serious. But anyway, that was just a way of demonstrating that we did some mad stuff. You know what I mean? So yeah, they took. We all went en masse. But I have a brother. He has some learning difficulties. So to take a kid like him to Parkhead in a match like that is ridiculous. So. Yeah, and brilliant, and my mum got lost, and I remember the PA system barking out, "Well, Mrs. Davies, please, I hang a hoot in you," and you go, "That's Mum. Where is she?" "Well, Mrs. Davies, please," and you're like, "We lost Mum." Mad, brilliant, magic. We found her again. So that's good.
You've mentioned Gordon Strachan a couple of times, Saul, and I, incredibly enough, was introduced to your initiative via Gordon. It was just a random conversation I had with him in January, and he was singing your song, and he was telling me all about the work he had done with Porto that month. This was at the end of January, and it was only then, believe it or not, obviously a fan of Celtic, a fan of the band, it was only then that I became aware of Gordon's friendship with Tim. Now, how did that develop? Was that an early 90s thing? And did Tim get in touch with Gordon when he was at Leeds United? How did that work?
Yeah, I think their friendship comes from the time, because Tim's a Leeds fan, right? So yeah, I think that's where that connection came from. And Gordon started coming to some James gigs, and he really got it. And more often than not, his wife Leslie will come along as well. She's a lovely woman, and he would come and help himself to a little glass of wine and a bag of peanuts in the dressing room. So by the time we came off stage, there was nothing left, and there was just Gordon in a state of undress in our dressing room. No, Gordon, no, sorry. No, he's a huge music fan, and it's brilliant. He loves the shows. He loves it. And what I think is amazing about Gordon is he gets what we're doing. He really gets what we're doing as a band. And going back to the thing about James, changing things around, failing sometimes and sometimes hitting real highs. I'm sure that Gordon is a very, very good football manager. And like all very good football managers, gets flack from time to time because when you're good at it, you create expectations that you can only succeed. And of course, you can't always succeed. You're going to fail sometimes. Going back to that game at Hampden against England, I knew England were going to score in the last 20 seconds of that game. I knew it. I absolutely knew that Kane was going to score. And I actually turned my back and just put my hand over my eyes and went, no, and they did. And as I turned around and looked at it, I just saw Gordon with a bottle of water. I just go and throw this bottle of water on the side of the pitch. And I subsequently asked him, I'm sure you wouldn't mind me saying that. I said, what? I think that might have gone down as the worst moment in his career. That's how close you are to, beating the team in front of you happens to be England, with all that comes with that, and potentially progressing into the fight. That would have given Scotland away a fighting chance, to get to those finals. So the margins, people always say this, whatever, it's not over till they get into the final whistle, it's fine margins, whatever, but it's true, isn't it? You know what I mean? So,
well,
he's a good man.
The thing with Gordon, you also told me is you were the guest of him, Rugby Park, back in 2007, and that's when Celtic wrapped up the league title. You and the band were all in amongst the Celtic fans that day.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. It was one of the best experiences of my life, I'll tell you. Which is some call because he said, yeah, right, you can get into the game. And we were like, we were doing a gig either the day before or the day after, whatever. So we had a day off, and it just so happened to coincide with that game. And so we went along all of us went along. And there's people in the back, they're not used to going to the football. And the funny thing is as well that Mark, our keyboard player, and Andy, our trumpet player, they go, well, Mark's a season ticket holder at the Arsenal, right? And Andy goes to the Arsenal as well quite a bit whenever he can. So, which isn't that often because the tickets are so highly priced, right? Anyway, those boys were like, you can imagine, right? We thought we were going to get a box and get some little sausages on sticks, and Gordon was going to sort us out, and it was going to be magic, and there'd be a little tonics at half time, and maybe a little pot of tea and all the rest of it. So we get our tickets, and we go, right, where's the box? We realise we walk around the ground, right, and Rugby Park. So we're like, we go, oh, we're in there, right? Or we're in the queue, right? Okay, right. Well, we're in the queue, right? See what happens. So we're in with the nutters, right? It was magic, absolutely magic. I tell you, the noise, the vibe. I saw a guy try to force a police horse to drink vodka, which is seriously one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. Literally saying to the horse, go and take a drink. Go on, take a drink, like this. Right? And the policeman on the horse is about 8 feet up in the air, just saying to the guy, get away from the horse. Basically, get away from the horse. So this is a game that kicked off, I think, at 12:15 or something, 12:30. The idea being, I'll be all right, because everybody will get up, they'll have a nice fried breakfast, and they'll all wander along to the game, and everything will be hunky dory. But they've all stayed up all night, smashed, and I tell you what a vibe. And I saw some fairly strange things. I saw the famous killie pie, loads of them, tens of them, raining down on the pitch from above, which is, I was like, they need to be eaten, lads. You know, they're not cheap. And I heard some of the foulest language I've ever heard in my life coming out of the mouths of children, which was magic. And when Nakamura hit it, we were at the other end to the Nakamura goal. At the other, when that ball hit the back of the net, honestly, shaking, like amazing. You know, like to be in that, it's like, wow, what a feeling, what a feeling. And people who don't get football just need one little moment like that where they go, I get it now. I know I get it. You know? Beautiful, amazing.
You mentioned it before, Paul, when it comes to football and music. And the working classes, it was often the only thing that we had. And you get that because you're a football fan. But you also give that every night you're on stage with your band. So there's this correlation with music and Celtic, music and football. We like to think as Celtic fans that all the cool bands support Celtic. Did anybody spot you guys behind the goals that day?
Yeah, of course. And yeah, you know, it's like, oh, it's the lads from James. You know, and of course, sit down. You know, of course, it's of course, you know, why wouldn't you? If I was one of them and I saw me, I would be doing it. Do you know? I mean, why not? It's too good an opportunity to miss. There was another game actually. There was a game at Wembley, which is a friendly game between England and Scotland, which England won 3-2, which Gordon invited me and Tim and I think Jimmy along to. We went to that, and again he put us in with the Tartan Army, right? And Tim had never seen anything like it. I mean, you've seen it on the telly or whatever, but you know, there we were with the loons again, showing us their arses, and they got hold of the fact, and they were like, "It's 10 booth for James." And the whole you know, it's like mad, brilliant, amazing. Because they're funny as well. Do you know what I mean? They're not going to harm anybody. The vibe is just like, it's got to be a celebration. That's the connection, I think. You know, football at its best, when football is ugly, when football is violent, when it's used as a weapon, you know, and when it's not controlled properly. You know, I don't mean controlled by the police or by authority or whatever, but when it doesn't control itself, when it doesn't know what it's doing, when it doesn't know why it's there, or what it represents, or what it should be doing, you know, then you're in trouble. And football has a history of that, you know, in various countries, you know, whatever, and still ongoing. That's what Everybody Belongs Here is about. That's why this initiative is. We think it's a good message in football. That there are lots of things going on at the moment. There's a huge amount of change going on out in the world. You know, people quite correctly standing up and saying we've had enough. But you know, again, just going back to the initiative, the impetus that comes from those 3 lines, you know, of words. Everybody, you know, there's only one human race, many faces. Everybody belongs here. If you think about that message in terms of a football crowd, that's a positive message in a football stadium. You know, and it's limited. You know, for me, it's limited to the football stadium. It's about football, and it's about the machinery of football. You know, it's tackling to some extent also. Not just prejudices, but some, you know, there's also some corruption in football. There are questionable things that take place in football. There would be. It's one of the biggest businesses on the planet. So where you have big business, you can have, can't you? You know, some corrupt activity. And so, of course, football has some issues to address. And we won't change very much, I'm sure. Do you know what I mean? You know, but we would like to be part of the conversation, and you know, we're enthusiastic football supporters. You know, we love football as well, so we have a huge passion for football, and we see, like you do, you know, the connection between football and the jobs that, you know, well, at the moment we can't do. You know, no one's really, you know, everybody's in limbo. You know, we would be doing shows this summer. You know, we had some shows booked to go and play, but of course we won't be doing them. And and football is not, you know, when will we see Parkhead full again? We don't know. You know, this is so the other side of this is when will people be able to get back together and we can watch games on the telly, like we've been watching some German football, and Portugal has started again with some football. And it's great that people are playing again, because for real fans, you've got something to watch again and talk about again. And we all need that stuff in our lives. There's nothing wrong with that. It's great. But it's not the same without the fans there, is it? And that's when you understand, you know, the connection between the fan and the football, you know, itself. So much of what happens on the pitch is informed by the noise. And players always say, "Oh, we don't hear the crowd." Nah, that's crap. You do.
I agree with you. That energy, Saul, you must get it on the stage. You know, I've watched some of your festival performances over the last couple of weeks, and you can tell that Tim definitely buzzes off the energy from the crowd. And it must be the same for football.
No, it must be, and there are moments in games you've been in a stadium when you've seen it, when somebody does something magical. And you know that it's because there's a surge of confidence. There's a moment, somebody senses a moment, but it's all informed, I'm sure, by, you know, when you go to proper big football stadiums like Parkhead, you know, and it's full, you know, something happens. I mean, you know, I was fortunate to get tickets to the 2011 Champions League final at Wembley. Barcelona Man U, and I took Vincent, my son, along to that, and I witnessed one of the greatest performances by a football team that I think is probably possible. You know, that 2011 team, when people like Xavi and Iniesta, Messi was on the field, but he was great. But really, the game was about Xavi and Iniesta. It was unbelievable, and Busquets, to see them actually in front of you do this, and. All the stranger to then a year later to be at Parkhead when Celtic beat them. Mm-hmm. You know, the greatest team ever assembled. Perhaps, you know, as a club side, it's arguable that they were the pinnacle of club football, that team. And that was like the Killy experience, like tenfold, being in the stadium when in that game, we shuddered. It took about a week to recover. It was amazing.
And your son's a Barcelona fan, and he was affected by it as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he kind of got that in a way from me, because I moved to Barcelona in 1990, and I'd lost football in the 80s. Actually, it was so violent and it was so hardcore, and there was so much violence and racism and nastiness at games. By then, I was in Manchester, and you know, I studied in Manchester, so I was in Manchester for the whole of the 80s, and there was a lot of football. There was a lot of great football going on, but it was just too mental. And I got more and more and more into music. And so I left football behind, but then I ended up, weirdly enough, moving to Barcelona in 1990. And my girlfriend's brother said, "Oh, I've got some tickets to go and see Barcelona play, I think it was PSV Eindhoven in a pre-season friendly." I was like, "I'm not interested. I don't want to go." And he goes, "No, you should come on, we'll go. It'd be really nice." I was like, "No, I'm not interested. I just, you know, I'm not interested." So I went. And I went into the new camp, and I just went, and it all came back to me. All those experiences, you know, through the 70s, into the early 80s. And, it, you know, because my dad used to take me as well to Easter Road quite a bit. So we used to go and see Hibs play. It was easier to get to, it was easier to get in, all that kind of stuff. And it had the sloping pitch as well, which was really funny. So... And I saw Stoichkov. I saw Johan Cruyff, who was my hero right? As a boy growing up, Johan Cruyff was my hero, totally. He was my footballing hero. There were other players who were, you knew, were geniuses. You know, Celtic had one, Jimmy Johnson, obviously. You know what I mean? There were these figures around, but Cruyff, for some reason, I don't know. Well, I know where it came from. I know exactly where it came from. It came from 1976. We lived on a sheep farm near Stirling, up in the hills, near Gargunnock, actually. And I used to listen to the football in my bed through this mad little radio. It sounds like I'm making this shit up, and I listened to the Barcelona-Liverpool match, which was the quarter-final of the UEFA. What was the other? It wasn't the Cup Winners' Cup, and it wasn't the European Cup. It was the other one. What was that called? Whatever it was. Anyway,
was it the Fair City Cup?
No, it wasn't that. It was a proper. You know, it was that. That was kind of Mickey Mouse, wasn't it? Anyway, it was whatever it was. So, Liverpool went on to win it that year. That year they played Bruges in a 2-legged final, and they won it. Right. So, this was the quarter final. And Liverpool beat Barcelona 1-0 at the Nou Camp. And I was listening to this. Now, I was born in Liverpool, right? So we were going to see a lot of football in Scotland, but I always had an eye on what was happening in Liverpool, because it was like, you know, we lived far away. We had no car. In my family, we just had a motorbike. And so we couldn't all go there's 6 of us in my family. You can't put 6 people on a motorbike and go to Oldham to go and visit your grannies. It's not going to happen, right? Well, unless you do a relay, which imagine that. So, poor Dad. He's like, right, I've got 4 of them down there, and it's just. So and I mithered my dad for the next 2 weeks, saying, "Take me to Anfield. I want to go and see the return game. I want to go and see." We didn't have any money, really. We didn't have any way of going. Anyway, finally relented. He goes, "Okay, I'll take you." So we went overnight on this mad Honda 175, right? Overnight from Gargunnock to Anfield. And we got there in the morning, really early in the morning. We're standing outside Anfield, right? And I'm going, "We need a ticket. How do we get a ticket?" And there was these Spanish geezers there, and they didn't want, and they said, we got tickets. We got tickets in with the Spaniards, right? It was amazing. It was beautiful. That day we went to the cinema. We had nowhere to go. So we went to the cinema and watched like some mad disaster movie. I don't 75,000 Leagues Under the Sea or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, whatever, mad. And went to the game, and in with this, like, probably about 1,000 Spanish. And, you know, I'd never seen a fur coat. I'd never smelled perfume. I'd never seen anybody smoke a cigar. Do you know, like, seriously, right? And that's what we were in the middle of. Mm-hmm. And I saw this geezer in the middle of the pitch, and I thought, that guy is a true genius. And that was Cruyff. Naiskins was also in that team. They were an amazing team. Liverpool was great. It was, Ian St. John, I think, Keegan, amazing, right? And from that moment, I just thought, he's the greatest player I'm ever going to see. And I saw some amazing. I never saw Eusebio play. You know, I never saw Pele play. But I just thought he is on a different level. You know, like a different type of football. You know, not flash. Like, okay, he could be flash, but it was a different kind of football. And I just thought it was special. When my son Vincent was born, I tried to get him named Johan Cruyff, right? But my now ex-wife Anna said, "You're not calling our son Johan Cruyff. That's just not happening." But recently I spoke to Vincent and I said, "What about changing name to Johan Cruyff?" Because I might do it on deed poll, so I might have to start calling him Johan, which it'd be brilliant, wouldn't it?
Cruyff was one of the most stylish players as well. So I don't know if you've ever heard the story that he almost signed for Dumbarton in the 1980s.
That's just not true.
He came and visited Bob Head. So there you go. Can you imagine?
I'll tell you what, right? I recently read his autobiography, which was about 5-6 years ago. He put it out. What gets me about him is you spoke to John Barnes yesterday, didn't you?
I did, yes.
So I think one of the things that John Barnes has is class. You know? Like, obviously an amazing footballer, icon on the pitch, but has an amazing intelligence and an amazing class about him. He's just a classy geezer, do you know what I mean? And with some fibre to him, really, and some strength of character. And it's what I get from Cruyff also, you know, a man driven in a different way, but nevertheless, a man driven to make a difference and to introduce change to football. As I say, in a different way. I guess Cruyff changed the way that people even think about football and see football, you know, as a game. And he brought a philosophical edge maybe to the game, which, I mean, without that tutelage, you know, Guardiola wouldn't be, he wouldn't have been the player that he was, and he certainly wouldn't have been the manager that he is, you know. And, you know, I think Cruyff changed everything in football. But it's interesting because he started, you know, at the age of 5, working at the Ajax Amsterdam Arena, you know, 5, 6 years old, doing stuff in the stadium because they lived right next to it, because he started obviously in Ajax, and then he was kind of taken under the wing of the groundsman there. So by the age of 7 and 8, Cruyff describes at the age of 8 being at one end of the ground at half time with the pick, you know, aerating the ground in front of the nutters at Ajax. He's 7 years old. Like, amazing, eh?
It's incredible. And,
yeah, amazing.
you know, we're missing football, so as you say, it's not going to be the same probably until the start of next year. But we're also missing live music. But you're involved in setting something quite unique up that will allow people to tap into live events online. Could you tell us a wee bit more about that again?
Yeah, I will. Yeah. Well, I think I've been really fortunate, you know, like playing in the band that I do, having had the career that I've had. So as challenging as this period of time is for everybody who's not, you know, like I'm talking about the economics now of music, really, in a way. But there's loads and loads of bands out there who, if we don't help them, if we don't help each other, actually, we might end up losing some of those bands. And if we don't help, and if our industry doesn't help itself and coalesce around some positive ideas about how we move forward, and even if government doesn't help, actually, to an extent, then we might well find ourselves in difficulty because venues will close, people will move into other industries. It's really expensive to run those places, you know, and we need safe spaces for people to be able to play in and for people to be able to watch music in. So it's difficult. So I think we can see that loads and loads of our lives have migrated online in the last few months for obvious reason. And maybe we've made a huge leap. Maybe some of the things that people are now doing, like this conversation that we're having online, you know, we might have had face-to-face. Maybe we'll have face-to-face again in the future. But look how things have just seamlessly gone online. People need to communicate. People have got thoughts to share. People have got activities to keep involved in and all the rest of it. So I personally think that music can be something that we can share online. I think it's amazing that artists have felt compelled to reach out to their audiences with, you know, doing what we call the lockdown tune thing. It's great. But my ambition is to, and we have created a platform in partnership with some very clever, driven people in Portugal who are also linked into people in America, in the west coast of America, in partnership with quite a powerful online ticketing agency and some other media partners who are giving us the space and the time again for free because they believe in what we're doing. And so yeah, we've set up some live concerts which are Those concerts thus far are about to start in Portugal. Our idea is to make sure that we can ticket price very low, so that, because we think that accessibility to these events is really important. Not everybody can afford 50 or 60 quid to go to a gig. And so we think that charging somebody 2 or 3 or 4 quid to see still a beautiful and amazing online gig, really a show made by a band in a space, in a venue, but just with nobody in it, but filmed properly, recorded properly, mixed, put out live, is something that can be part of the way that our industry evolves. And well, we have we have partners in Scotland now also, so which is what we're doing at the moment, building those relationships in Scotland and across the UK. We're starting in Portugal. We have a show on the 21st of June, a Portuguese homegrown talent, well, we've sold 15,000 tickets so far for that event.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and she's not a massive. She's she's known and whatever. That's been run by the partners in Portugal, and but we will start hopefully announcing artists from the UK that are going to come and get involved and start doing this. We're still putting our partners in place, and all the rest of it. But it's we think very strongly that accessibility, the sustainability of this model. My industry has been pretty bad, I think, at dealing with the targets around emissions and all the rest of it. And again, I'm not just paying lip service to this. Our industry is at the forefront of the creative industries. More people come to see gigs than go to the theatre or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's massive. Yeah, it's the football of the arts, isn't it?
Yeah,
gigs.
absolutely.
Rock and roll, whatever, hip hop. Whatever. It's all. There's something there for everybody, and everybody goes in big numbers. So music is vital to people's lives, and so we need to keep it working, but we need to make it sustainable. We need to make it available to anybody. So people who are less able, physically able to get to a gig, to get in a gig, to move around in a gig. Imagine you're a wheelchair band and you go to a big mad rock and roll gig, the Hydro, say. Okay, they do their best and they do really well to cater for people who find themselves in difficulty. But why not have an amazing gig at home where you can share it with your mates, and it's costing almost nothing to do, and it's banging. So that's what we're doing. And I think it's a way. It's a way that bands can monetize their work, but not by ripping people off. And I think it means that the audience can feel cool about spending a little bit on making sure that their bands can exist. And let's see. A lot of people are thinking, by October we'll be doing gigs again. I personally don't think that will be the case. I don't think it'll be the case that even next April or May that will be happening. I actually think that we'll only really see gigs again, and maybe we'll only see really the numbers of people back inside stadiums once there is a vaccine for COVID-19. And it's not good enough just to find a vaccine. You've also got to then give it to people. You've got to administer it to people, and somebody's got to pay for it. So, we're a long way away, in my opinion, from the world going back to what people call the normal.
Yeah.
And we hear a lot about the new normal, like it's a thing that we all know what that is. But the fact is, it's the Wild West. We don't know what that is, And there's some very vulnerable people still in our communities who are susceptible to all sorts of things, and so people need protecting still. So you've got to be seriously careful. You know what I mean? Really, don't.
Yeah.
Where
do we find the platform that you set up? Because obviously we've got a gig coming up this month. Where can we find that and get involved?
You'll find it at cultureliveonline.com. And you'll see there it's kind of like a one-page introduction to this particular artist, Carolina Leslan, she's called. So this is a gig that's going on the 21st. She's a Portuguese artist. So for anybody Portuguese that might be seeing this, they'll know what she's singing about, which is great. And for anybody who doesn't, well, why not spend €2 and see what she's doing? I mean, why not? You might think it's brilliant. You might think, oh, it's not for me, whatever. It doesn't really matter in a sense. Do you know what I mean? But and then I think what we're aiming to do, there's a very significant artist from Portugal, that Miguel and his guys over there. Miguel Belo is the guy that's put this together in Portugal. A very significant guy, a Portuguese artist called Pedro Rabanosa, who is probably kind of Portugal's second historically biggest ever artist who signed up to do a show on the 1st of July, which is amazing. He's kind of like the Leonard Cohen of Portugal in a way, kind of thing. He's quite a significant cultural force in Portugal, and so no, it's I think that as we go on into the month and into August, September, we hope to be able to bring some UK artists into this and break down the barriers that exist between our industry is very sophisticated, and there's a lot of mouths to feed, and there's a lot of expectation about how our business should work. So we have to challenge the power structure and say to people, very gently, but very persuasively, but look, you have to encourage our bands and our artists to engage with their public, whether it's in Peru or Portugal or Dunfermline or wherever it is, so I think it's I'm very proud of the start that we've made. And at some point, maybe I'll have the opportunity to talk to you more about it and explain to people what we're doing when we've really built up our artist roster and all the rest of it. There's a very well-known American comedian called Bill Burr, for example. I think he's going to do one from the LA side of things. So this is not just about music. There's people, dance companies from Holland, bands from France, all sorts of people want to get involved, which is brilliant. So it's well named Culture Live Online. It's not just rock and roll, let's say. There's some people from Angola. We won't know very much about music from Angola, but there's a hip hop star from Angola. Lots and lots of people in Angola love him to bits. He's going to do one of these shows at some point coming through the summer. Again. Some people might find it fascinating to watch a guy like that for an hour for the cost of a coffee at Costa.
Precisely.
Why not? So we need to find new and inventive ways of being able to generate income for musicians, because without a music scene, vibrant music scene, without older people like me, more established artists, being able to also give a hand up to younger artists to come through, to be able to, that will die, and that's not good enough. We can't allow that to happen. And I have to say, my particular interest is in Scotland in this case, because having been brought up a lot in Scotland, not exclusively but a lot throughout my whole life, and some of the people that I'm working with, I won't name them on this call, but some of the people that I'm working with are based in Scotland, and we are people that are huge supporters of the Scottish music scene, and me and my band have massively benefited from the support of Scotland. James is massive in Scotland. I get that. We connect with whatever it is in the Celtic gene, whatever, and those gigs that we do wherever they be in Scotland are always often the highlights of our tours. It's just the way it is. A lot of English bands say that, and I think the Scots always think, they're just saying that to be nice to us. The reason they say it is because it's true. That's the point. There isn't a better venue, in my opinion, in the world than the Barrowlands. You know what I mean? That's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. So
it's great to hear that. When it's a genuine compliment that you're making, Saul, because I think the Scots love live entertainment. They love to contribute to the event, particularly at the Barrows. So to hear you saying that, and you've travelled the world, that's a real compliment. But what I'd love to do, Saul, I would love to speak more in depth about this new platform once it's up and running, and we could do an event like this again and speak about how people can get involved, you know.
Yeah, no, that would be magic, and whenever that is, you know, because we're in contact now with artists across the UK, but a lot of them in Scotland, and so next time I speak to you about it, then there'll be an opportunity to actually confirm the artists who are going to work with us, and there'll be some artists there that are really emerging, and there'll be some that we all know, you know, and so for me, the focus will be bringing, and I would like nothing more than to see those bands that I love, you know, continue to be able to reach, you know, a worldwide audience. I mean, I put this momentarily into perspective for you. Certainly this was the case very recently. If it's not exactly the case, I don't think it is. But Scotland, you know, we have under 5 million people living in Scotland, 4.5 million people, inhabitants of Scotland, and we're the 7th biggest exporter of music in the world. That's pretty outrageous, really. Yeah. So when you talk about Scotland punching above its weight, I think that's where you see it, you know. And it's part of an economy, and it's part of a state of mind. It's part of a way of being, you know, that you represent your culture, you know. You can dig up oil in the North Sea, but that doesn't represent your culture. Do you know what I mean? That doesn't really mean anything. That doesn't say anything about who you are. You're just lucky because you got some oil. But for me, the cultural value in Scotland is immense. And the history of rock and roll is shot through by artists who've emerged from Scotland. You know, some of the most significant artists in the world have come from here. So I think we need to value that. We need to find a way to continue valuing that. You know, without we don't just lie down and go, oh well, we'll wait a couple of years. No, that's not good enough. That's not what we're doing. You know. So I'm really, anyway.
It's great. It's great to hear, and it's also great. Everybody who's tuned in and listened to you tonight, please visit everybodybelongshere.com. Support the initiative, buy the T-shirt, and watch the video of Many Faces, because when you see how powerful that is, and it may well be coming to a football stadium near you. Saul, I'd love to thank Seltzer here for hosting us tonight. I'd love to thank The Longest 40 for producing us tonight. And of course yourself. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Can I just say one last thing? Yeah, just one last thing. Well, other than thanking everybody for putting this on, so I just want to say this. Our initiative actually is really coming into focus. Everybody Belongs Here. What we're going to do is we're going to talk to some big businesses in the next week or two about helping us generate some little assets. And what we're going to do is we're going to ask supporters, clubs around the world, you know, literally around the world, when we're going to send them little packages of stuff that can go into stadiums, little, you know, the words, the emblem, the stuff, you know, they're physical representations of what we're doing, and we're going to try and engage we will engage with the fans, the supporters clubs, to go to the clubs that they love and demand of their clubs that those clubs take a very small but very significant step in supporting us by just putting, you know, this logo, or just, you know, that somewhere in the stadium. Ideally, one chair. Give us one chair. You know, there's, I don't know, whatever there are. There's 95,000 chairs at the new camp. Just give us one of them. Let's put that on it. Do you know what I mean? And it's big clubs, it's small clubs. Do you know what I mean? It's Stirling Albion. It's, you know, it's my local club, Ross County. You know what I mean? You know, why not? And it's youth football as well. You know, I just wanted to say this as well. The final thing about this. You know, we always talk. You know, those of us who have kids and all the rest of it, we always talk about, you know, the next generation and all the rest of it. Blah blah. I've been to some youth football. Vincent, my son, played some. He's a really good footballer, and he plays some youth football and the rest of it. And the aggression and the anger that is often witnessed at the side of the pitch, whether it's towards opposing players, their own players, weirdly enough, or referees. I mean, the aggression that referees have to suffer is well documented at that level of the game. And so we will approach also that sector of the game that we love, you know, and say to them, listen, that's not really good enough. And so I just would like to finish by saying, just if you think about those words, there's only one human race, many faces, everybody belongs here. That's a mantra that people need to, in my opinion, it can take on board, and it can do some good. It's not about my band. I wish in a way we'd not written those words, in a sense, actually, because I don't want to be challenged on whether we're doing it because I want something for my band. I don't, so this is big. This is big at the top end. Talking about Celtic here, one of the biggest sporting institutions on the planet with an unbelievable history. But I'm talking about grassroots as well, real grassroots level as well. And
it's so important.
It's our right.
Yeah.
I think it's our right to be able to talk to people, but it's also our responsibility to talk to people.
Oh, absolutely. And listen, Saul,
and I sorry, go on.
For you to come on and share that with us tonight is appreciated, because I think as a club and as a fan base, I was speaking quite a bit to John Barnes last night, like you say, all about the anti-racism message. And I think that is part of the state of mind of the Celtic fan base. So, yeah, this initiative for me, I think will fly, and I think fans of Celtic and others will certainly get behind it.
Yeah, well, brilliant. I hope they do. There's great people out there, and we all just need to get together and try and make a difference. Really, I think that's the point. So yeah, and there is such a thing as a Celtic state of mind. I've been in it.
Yeah, so and listen, thank you for joining us on A Celtic State of Mind. It's been an absolutely enthralling evening, and I must thank you for the bottom of my heart for coming along and speaking to us tonight.
Brilliant. No, thanks very much, John. Brilliant. Yeah, you're doing a good job.
Yeah, I'll speak to you again during the week, all right?
Brilliant.
Thanks all. Take care. Thank you all for attending and tuning in to our Facebook Live event. It's been a real pleasure speaking to Saul Davies from a band who sold over 25 million records worldwide. And this has been made possible by Celts Are Here for hosting the event, the Longest 40 for producing it. I've been Paul Dykes, and please join us again for A Celtic State of Mind. Thank you very much.